So imagine this. You have the figure who basically defined radical freedom for the entire 20th century, Jean-Paul Sartre, the man who gave us, existence precedes essence. The idea that you're born a blank slate and every single choice you make draws the blueprint for who you are. We're radically, terrifyingly free. Now, what if that same man, in the final months of his life, nearly blind, frail, totally dependent on others, starts writing a secret manuscript that just critiques his entire life's work?
Right, and that's the powerful, almost tragic premise of the source material you brought us today.
Hmm.
We're diving into excerpts from The Aperture of Nothingness, a manuscript supposedly written right at the end of Sartre's life, from late 79 up to his death in April 1980. And the historical context is, it's just so crucial here. Sartre was 73, and he was confronting the brute limits of his own body. He had to rely on people for the simplest tasks. He was, in a very real way, facing the very facticity, the given limits, that he'd spent a lifetime trying to philosophically transcend.
It sounds less like a continuation of his work and more like a philosophical deathbed confession, almost a reversal of his greatest hits.
It is a profound late-stage revision.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our goal in this deep dive is really to synthesize the three major shifts we see in this final thinking. First, his complete revision of his core concept, bad faith. Second, his stunning late-life embrace of the body, basically admitting his rival Merleau-Ponty was right. And finally, his realization that the ethics he promised, it would just remain unfinished. This is a shortcut to understanding the ultimate self-critique of existentialism, and it's straight from the man who invented it.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that revision of bad faith. We should probably start with the original definition, the one most people know. Bad faith is the act of lying to yourself, fleeing your freedom by pretending you're a fixed thing.
Exactly. The classic example from Being and Nothingness is the cafe waiter. You know the one? The waiter isn't just serving coffee, he's playing at being a waiter. He's performing the role with this exaggerated, almost robotic precision.
He's trying to become his job title.
Right. He's trying to merge his consciousness as freedom with that social role, pretending he is the role, fixed and defined, like an object. He's trying to become what Sartre calls a being in itself.
The being in itself is the unthinking object, the rock, the table. And we, conscious beings, are the being for itself. We're the ones who question and choose. So bad faith is trying to be the table.
That was the old argument.
Yeah.
But in this late work, Sartre he throws a bomb at this whole foundation. He asks, what if consciousness itself, the being for itself, the very thing that makes us human, what if that is the original bad faith?
Wait, how?
He argues that the moment we become self-aware, the I, witnessing the I, that act of reflection is the first violence, the original separation. Consciousness can't ever actually coincide with itself. It is always necessarily a gap.
So if that gap is just built into consciousness, does that mean authenticity? Being truly transparent to yourself is impossible from the start. Is he saying being human is fundamentally fraudulent?
In a way, yes. He uses this really striking example to explain it. He describes watching a young man, Vincent, drinking coffee. For a brief, unthinking moment, Vincent is just purely tasting the coffee. He is the experience.
He's completely present.
Precisely. But then reflection kicks in, and Vincent thinks, I am enjoying this coffee. I am a person who enjoys coffee.
Mm.
And in that split second, the pure experience it dies. The act of tasting becomes an object, something that a separate, reflecting I now possesses. Consciousness murders the moment by witnessing it.
So just being aware of your own experience makes the experience inauthentic. It turns a lived moment into a dead object for your own inspection. If that's true, how does anyone ever truly live?
Well, it leads to this incredibly bleak conclusion in the manuscript. He argues that conscious beings aren't the crown of creation at all. We are the universe's wound, its necessary incompleteness. We constantly rupture the seamless fabric of being in itself, that perfect whole existence of the physical world.
A cosmic wound. Wow, that is a powerful metaphor. It's like human consciousness is this necessary tragedy that violates the wholeness of reality.
It is intensely bleak. And this internal wound flows directly into how we relate to the external world, which brings us to his famous idea of the other.
Right. Sartre's whole legacy is often boiled down to that one line, hell is other people.
Mhm.
And in this manuscript, he kind of doubles down on it. He says it's true, but he'd missed just how agonizingly true it was.
Yeah, he realizes that the problem of the other's gaze, the way someone looks at me and turns me into an object in their world, that's not something that just happens to consciousness. It's fundamental to consciousness.
Mm.
We're always alienating ourselves, splitting into a watcher and a watched, even when we're alone. We are always already a being for others because we spend all our time being for ourselves as if we were another.
The source gives that example of Vincent and Marie on a date. Vincent doesn't just desire Marie, he has to be someone who desires as witnessed by Marie. He's performing his desire for his own internal audience.
Exactly. The other person's physical presence just brings that internal mechanism out into the open. We're desperate to not be an object, but our own minds are hardwired to make us one. And this leads him to revisit Nausea, his first great novel.
Yeah.
He says that Roquentin's disgust when he sees that huge chestnut tree root. It wasn't disgust at absurdity like he'd always claimed.
Right. He realized, looking back, that what it really was metaphysical envy. It was the dizziness of seeing pure, perfect wholeness from the perspective of perpetual incompleteness. The root just is, doesn't question itself. It has no gap.
It's the perfect being in itself.
Without remainder. He was envious of the root's ability to just exist without the constant, torturous need for self-justification.
That's a fascinating pivot. If the root is wholeness and the human is this self-wounding gap, where does one look for any kind of solace? This is where he finally addresses the body, right?
Yeah.
Something you'd always kind of dismissed as mere facticity. This is one of the most stunning reversals in the history of philosophy. It's a direct admission that his great rival, Maurice Merleau-Ponty, was right all along about embodiment. For decades, Sartre saw the body as a limitation, something freedom had to overcome. But now, frail and nearly blind, his own experience forced him to change his mind.
And what specifically forced the shift? Was it one thing?
It was the daily reality of aging. He gives this very specific example of trying to stand up from a chair. When he was young, standing was just a fluid, unthinking gesture, a natural action. But as his body failed, that same movement became a conscious sequence of discrete, difficult actions. He had to think about it, leverage my arms, position my feet, shift my weight.
The body, through its failure, became visible to him as an object.
Precisely. But here is the aha moment. The body is not just a limit, it is the subject we are, not an object we have. That fluid gesture of reaching for a cup when he was healthy. That wasn't a mental event followed by a physical one. It was a single, unified bodily intention. He finally saw that the body gives us access to ways of being that pure thought can't touch. Moments where intention and action merge and that internal gap for a second closes.
So the body, his great limit, is also the only thing that offers a temporary escape from the prison of his own mind. That's a huge shift.
It's immense. And this deep recognition of limitation leads us right to the third great reversal. His confession about the ethics he promised to write. He promised a follow-up to Being and Nothingness that would be a system of ethics, but he never wrote it.
And he finally says, why?
Yes, he admits the simple, shocking reason. It's impossible. It's impossible to write a systematic ethics that holds up. If you accept the full weight of existential freedom, no God, no universal human nature, no external reason, then there's no external ground to prove one choice is objectively better than another.
That's terrifying. If I choose to fight injustice, say fascism, and someone else chooses apathy, there's no logical way for me to prove my commitment is superior.
You can't. Not based on pure reason. And so the ethics he ends up with isn't one of certainty, but one of commitment without guarantees. You have to stake yourself on values like fighting for justice, despite having zero philosophical proof that those values are universally correct. That's the price of freedom.
Which requires a certain kind of integrity. He calls it the courage of ambiguity, and he actually credits the concept to Simone de Beauvoir.
Yes, and that phrase really captures the core of his late thought. It means accepting that we are free and unfree at the same time. We're constrained by our history, our body, our society, and the courage is in living with those contradictions without a neat solution. We have to choose how to live inside the ambiguity.
And that brings him right back to the unresolved conflict with Albert Camus.
He spends a lot of time in the manuscript wrestling with that ghost. Their conflict shattered their friendship, and Sartre admits that while political engagement sometimes requires the dirtiness of compromise, he finally sees that Camus was right. There have to be absolute moral limits, lines you don't cross, even if you can't philosophically prove why they're there. You just have to endure that tension.
So after a lifetime of intense seriousness, focusing on the terrible weight of choice, what is his final posture? Is it just total despair?
Well, this is what's so fascinating. What emerges is this late-life laughter at the abyss. Despite all the bleakness, he finds the absurdity of his own situation genuinely funny. There's this one moment he describes, pure slapstick.
The comic revelation. Tell us about it.
He describes dropping his pen, a trivial event when he was younger. But now, with his failing body and vision, he can't retrieve it. The great existentialist philosopher, the champion of human projects, is completely undone by a dropped pen 3 feet away.
The man who wrote about the weight of existence, defeated by gravity and a bad retina.
And he laughs. He realizes that seriousness can be its own kind of bad faith inflating your own importance. The ultimate freedom, he realizes, is to see the joke in your own necessary striving, to laugh at your own failure, and to just persist anyway.
So if we're summing up this whole self-critique, what is the final unified takeaway from this late work?
I think the core message is that authenticity, the perfect self-possession he preached for decades, is an impossibility. It's built into the structure of consciousness itself. We can't escape the gap, the other, or ambiguity, but our dignity isn't found in achieving that impossible goal. It's found in the attempt. It's found in how we choose to relate to our unfreedom, our failures, and that ambiguity. Freedom, in the end, is how you manage your chains.
And the manuscript itself physically embodies this. It's fragmentary, it wanders, and it literally stops mid-sentence. His last words were instructions to Simone de Beauvoir. Simone, publish this or burn it. It no longer matters to me. It no longer...
It's the ultimate mic drop, the project of existence. Just cut off. Always a project interrupted.
What's so interesting there is that he spends all this time trying to settle old scores, trying to reconcile with the ghost of Camus and the ideas of Merleau-Ponty, dialogues that death stopped him from finishing.
And if philosophy really is a dialogue, as he seems to finally admit, it raises an important question for you, the listener. What conversations, what acknowledgments of error or debt or just shared insight do you need to have even if the other person isn't around to finish the dialogue? What is the weight of your unsaid words?